My name is Ben Leslie. I am the company owner and operator of Columbia Wireless. Columbia Wireless is an internet service provider that provides high-speed internet through rural and urban communities around the Kootenays. Back in the early 2000s, when my family used to vacation in this area, I noticed that most people were relying on a slow, unreliable dial-up internet connection. And that gave me an idea to provide faster, more reliable internet connections. And that was the start of Columbia Wireless.
My name is Tom Veilleux. I am Ben Leslie's uncle. Basically started July 2008 with Columbia Wireless. Ben had a calling for someone to come out. Being a family member, I responded and decided to move family lock, stock, and barrel from Alberta to BC. Back in those days, things were pretty bare. We were starting with very few clients. I came along when there's probably about 400 clients in the database, and we started building one client a day, sometimes two clients a day after that.
The internet connection we were able to supply them allowed them to work from home. One thing we also found is students were moving away from this area and having to take their training at the bigger centers in Calgary and Vancouver. This allowed them to do that same training from home, live at home, be close to their family. And later, as we advanced, we were able to provide much greater speed capacities, and we were able to expand into the urban centers.
We built our business on word of mouth. There was basically no advertising. We relied on clients to tell one another about our service.
Everyone always came back to the same response. Ben, your service is great. You have awesome support. You're there when Shaw and TELUS are not. You can fix things at a moment's notice. We've found that many businesses love to switch to our service because of the local support. In the beginning, Columbia Wireless rented tower space from CBC to grow our coverage quickly and to plan where to expand next.
The process was developing areas of the Kootenays where there was demand. We would listen to phone calls, people asking, can you provide service at such an address? And we'd listen and build a list.
From there, we decided to deploy new towers all the way up the Slocan Valley to expand our coverage all the way up to Nakusp.
Building the tower usually starts, number one, ordering the tower from supplier in Alberta. It would be shipped to on-site to show up on pallets. We brought them all in by helicopter. And we had to charter bigger helicopters to bring in the bigger pieces. We've dragged them out and bolt by bolt, nut by nut, put them together on the ground, drilling holes, putting in anchors, some surveying and such. It was a lot of grunt work. I know I've left a lot of DNA around the Kootenays, that's for sure.
During the initial tower construction phase, we were finding huge challenges trying to even build tower sites or maintain them.
The major challenges we had at that time were gaining access to towers, and power was another one. Sometimes there were power outages which knocked out our system. And Ben is renowned for him and his wife going to certain towers at numerous times of the year, with generators gassing them up to keep the towers going so people could have their internet.
Trying to keep tower sites running reliably required us to learn how to absorb hundreds of lightning strikes for each tower, how to deal with up to 2 feet thick icing conditions, and how to deal with wildlife attacks on your cables and wires.
There were a lot of long days, a lot of hot days, a lot of cold days, a lot of wet days. But we strived, Ben and I, back then to work 24/7 at this network and build it day by day.
Today, we have 25 mountaintop towers. We have our very own helicopter, which we can use to service any of our towers within minutes for preventative maintenance and upgrades.
Prior to that, it was either by quad or we had to charter helicopters. It was starting to get very costly chartering helicopters. Secondly, it was finding them available for when we needed them. So Ben, being an aviation nut, already having some experience with fixed wing aircraft and such, decided he was going to delve into getting a rotary pilot's license. So it only made sense the money we're spending on contracting out helicopters, we should spend it on our own helicopter. And it just turned this company around.
My name is Graydon Stobbs. I'm a network technician at Columbia Wireless. The most exciting part about my job is flying around the Kootenays and exploring the valleys and the mountains and working on the towers.
I always love the outdoors, and I love the fresh air, the natural beauty. When you get to go up to one of our tower sites at the top of the mountains, the air is just so crisp and clean. Everything's so undisturbed. It's a funny thing, it almost feels less stressed when you're up there. You don't hear any of the rustle, bustle of cars and trucks or anything. You have all your time in the world. One of our core values is to take care of the environment. Some of the ways we do that is by going completely paperless and also providing power to most of our towers through solar and wind generation.
When there's an issue at any of our towers, we generally fly up there, assess the situation if we couldn't figure out the issue remotely, and if it's been, damaged by elements or by wildlife, then we replace what needs to be replaced as quickly as possible.
We can move on the fly pretty quick. There's not a day goes by that we really have a plan of what's going to happen. It usually unfolds when you wake up in the morning. Ben is renowned for just moving when we have to move. The beauty of it is recently with having our own helicopter now to gain access to mountaintop towers, we can respond quite quickly. Having a good stock of extra equipment around, we can usually turn around and get our clients back online pretty quick.
What makes me proud of Columbia Wireless is that we're a locally owned and operated, family-run business who's able to give back to the community, make them feel less isolated and more connected to the rest of the world.
I've seen Columbia Wireless give back to the community by connecting a lot of people with their family that they otherwise wouldn't be able to be connected with, as well as it provides people sort of a safety net if they're living remotely and they need to contact emergency services.
When I've changed lives of some clients with the internet, it's the ones that I've taken off of dial-up or no internet whatsoever. I still remember a couple out in the Renata area, an elderly couple that had spent a previous winter up there with no true access to communication. And when I gave them an internet connection back then, they literally cried, fed me lunch, and knew now that they could, safely spend a winter up there and still have communication and talk to their family and emergency services if required. My hopes for the future of Columbia Wireless are to watch it grow, building trust with clients, knowing that they can trust us to keep them hooked up to the internet at the worst of times so that they can communicate with their family and friends.
So my hopes for Columbia Wireless is to see it grow and to be able to connect more people throughout the Kootenays and connect them with higher speed connections and new technologies.
Our ongoing vision is always to increase speeds and reliability to both urban and rural communities. I'm very excited to see what we can achieve next.